Hi and welcome to this week's video. This week I thought I'd do something a bit different and go over one of these leaflets that you can get from a well-known pet shop in the UK about whether they are suitable, whether they give the right information and all this sort of stuff. I had a quick read through and I can tell you now that some of the information in here is questionable. So I am going to get started. I've got two. I've got the Leos and I've got the bearded dragons. I'm going to do the bearded dragons first. So we can, obviously we're having a bearded dragon of 11 years, so I know I know enough what not to do. Obviously I'm always still learning about their care and everything and upgrading their care requirements, but let's get started. I'm going to try and splice in next to what you can see with my phone and have a go. So this one says an introduction for caring for your, I'm just making sure there's no logos that you can see. Caring for your bearded dragons. So this is a simple guide to put together to help caring for a bearded dragon, or thinking about getting a bearded dragon. I would always do your research before getting a bearded dragon to make sure that you know what you're doing. Now in this one it says that they're fairly simple to look after. Now as much as they are sold as a beginner pet, they're not, because of their care requirements, because they change so much from being adults, from babies to adults, for the fact that they do need care every single day with salads and feeding, and they are very, very needy animals because they are quite, sorry it's hay all over the floor, because they are quite social. So as much as they are more of a beginner friendly species, they're still not easy pets. They do need they are very high maintenance. Again, I'm one of these people that bought one. I didn't realise quite how high maintenance they can be. So I am one of these people. It also says that they live up to 10 years. I've underlined everything. Wow. Hold on. There we go. It also says that they can live up to 10 years. Well, she's 11 years old, so that blows that one out of the water. If you actually Google it, life expectancy is 9 to 12, but if you speak to a vet, they've seen them up to 20 years old. So this is a very long-lived pet. So this could be up to a 20-year commitment. Please keep that in mind when getting one. I said she's 11 years old and she's still pretty fit and strong. So this one talks about the enclosure. Now this is 120 centimeters, which is 3'11", which is just short of what they actually require. A minimum is 4x2x2. It doesn't actually say about height and width, believe it or not, although it's a commonly recurred fact. They are terrestrial, they're not. They are actually semi-arboreal. Just given the climbing opportunity, they will. She did before she slipped a disc. So this is talking about the fact that they like basking, which is correct because they are a diurnal species. So they need basking and a correct UV bulb, which give them credit, they have put that. But he says on here ceramic lamps and heat mats. No. Bearded dragons need a daytime basking bulb, definitely a white time baby basking bulb. They are diurnal species, which means they are up during the day, and our sun does not give off red light, it gives off white light. So we would match the sunlight, and they can't feel the belly. They can't feel the heat on their belly, so with heat mats they're more likely to burn their scales. They have a third eye. I will put the scientific name down below, but they have what's called a third eye, which detects heat and allows them to choose the perfect basking spot based on what they need at the time. Temperatures in here saying 35 to 40 degrees in the hot end, and 20 to 25 degrees of a cool end, and then below 15 of the night time is right. But please don't feel like you have to have that on spot every time. There will be dumb days that it fluctuates. You'll be hotter, colder. That's perfectly fine, as long as sort of 90% of the time it is. Sorry. As long as 90% of the time it is sort of around that time. So now going into substrate. For the fact that they've even mentioned substrate, I applaud them for, because a lot of people which tend to show away from substrate. The reptile carpets and the sand carpet, these things hoard bacteria, so they are on the right track of mentioning substrate, but using pure sand is a no, and using grass-fed pellets is also a no. You're meant to use a 70-30 sand soil mix, again staying away from the reptile carpets, preferably away from the tiles as well. That's not a natural habitat. They don't need cute furniture and all that sort of stuff. They are still technically a wild animal, so they should be given all the opportunity to exert natural behaviours. It also says on here about bioactive, which is a new thing as well. I've noticed with the reptile bearded dragon community, more and more people are pushing their reptiles and bearded dragons over to bioactive. I myself has just joined this, and she is bioactive now. I just need to add another bag of substrate mixed in with the sand for the 70-30 mix, because it's not quite high enough, as well as live plants. They are right with a large rock underneath the basking stock to soak up that heat, to help them heat all the way through, and hidey holes and branches and stuff for them to climb on, and just generally enrichment for them to explore. What else did I mark out? So they are going into the detail of food and things, and making sure they've got vitamin and calcium and vitamin. Calcium should be done with every feed when they're babies. The multivitamin 2 to 3 times a week is fine. You don't have to offer D3 if you've got a UV bulb. Sorry. If you've got a UV bulb, you don't have to. Sorry, you should have a UV bulb, which then means that you don't have to give D3, but it's okay to give D3 maybe once a week, because you can OD your lizard on D3. It also talks about variety of insects, the same distance between their eyes. That is a long ways, so that way. So the locust head is here and the locust tail is here, not that way. It also talks about treat for food. A variety of insects are including mealworms and waxworms. What it doesn't say on here is waxworms should be given as a treat. Mealworms, most bearded dragons, are certainly the ones that I've encountered, actually struggle to digest them. She can't digest the creatine in there, so I don't give her mealworms whatsoever. She gets the Marios instead, which have a less creatine ratio, making it easier on her tummy to digest. It also talks about gut loading on here, which is great because you should be gut loading, as well as giving dragons leafy greens. It says just adults, but I would still offer babies because they are meant to have a 30% of leafy greens and vegetables and things. And it also talks about giving fruit as an occasional treat. There is a whole list on the internet of different foods that they can eat. Please use it. They don't have to have just a few. Variety is key to get more vitamins and minerals in them. If you have a fussy dragon like mine that doesn't eat her vegetables, bee pollen is your best friend. She loves bee pollen. So again, try to hold the logo. I've just got some good questions on here that you should be asking yourself when you get dragon. Obviously who the bearded dragon is for, because yes, they are friendly, but I still wouldn't have a young child completely in control of a bearded dragon. Because obviously the live insects, they can scratch. They do have sharp claws, obviously, because they need them from climbing, and it's very uncommon for them to, but they can still bite if threatened. Making sure they've got enough space, obviously, and they need a 4-foot enclosure as a minimum, so making sure that you can accommodate for that. And I would go 4 foot as a minimum to begin with. Don't worry about upgrading as they get bigger, just put them straight in. Making sure that you can afford the bearded dragon. Obviously the setup, the lizard itself, although bearded dragons are relatively cheap because they're easy to come by, but vet costs as well. She goes every year. She has just had an operation for £750 to remove her ovaries because the eggs weren't developing properly and it was becoming more and more of a risk with her age. And then obviously making sure that you've got UV bulbs, heat bulbs, thermostat as well to make sure that it controls the temperature, because you don't want a heat bulb just continuously heating up the area. and making sure that you've got time for them. This includes the 10-year over 10-year commitment. Like I said, they can go up to 20 years, and making sure that you've got everyday care to feed, clean, socialise, all that sort of stuff. A socialised dragon is going to be more easier to look after. She is very social. She runs around my flat every other day, every couple of days, depending on what I'm working, as well as I actually go down in my community garden to get some natural UV and some enrichment in the grass with the different smells, the feeling the breeze, natural UV and all this sort of stuff. So we're just going to go on the back page. So this talks about communication and for the fact that you should have your bearded dragon on your own, which is correct. Bearded dragons are solitary creatures. They only come together to breed. But personally, I wouldn't breed them. The market's already flooded with them. I would always go rescue first because there's just so many of them in rescues at the minute. Again, this says that they're happy to sit on your lap and enjoy handling. Again, this depends on the individual. She does not like being sat on her lap. She would much rather be off exploring and looking at things and climbing on stuff, and as much as she's allowed to climb on, and all these bits and pieces, rather than sitting on the lap and watching TV, which is what the dragons tend to be labelled as. I've also underlined the fact that it says on here, bearded dragons only shed once a month. Now, this can be true, but when she was a baby with the proper nutrition and everything, she was shedding every 2 weeks when I first got her. She was 6 weeks old, 25 grams when I got her. And she was going in and out of sheds about every 2 weeks because they don't shed all in one go. So what I was finding is her back plate would go, then her tail, then her head, and then we go back around to the back plate. So it was about every 2 weeks that she was shedding until about 3 or 4 months, and then we went to once a month until we got to a year, and then she just sheds after she wakes up from brumation. So another thing that I've noticed, I'll just try and cover, it's got this checklist, which is great because it's got everything that you need on here, barring the one thing that I've underlined it. Complete dry food. Don't forget it. That stuff that they sell in certain UK reptile shops for complete dry food, it's not worth it. Again, I bought it when I first got the bearded dragon because I thought that was the right thing to do, and it's not. Just go for fresh veggies, treat fruit and live food. Don't do the dry food. I mean, if your bearded dragon needs to be syringe fed, which is fine by the vets, if they've advised you by the vets, do that. But unless they've advised you by the vets to syringe feed, you can use that stuff, mash it down with some water and then syringe feed it, or use the critical care, which is the better option. Don't worry. But on here it's got vivarium, lighting, UV source, heat lamp, reflector, which is good because it doesn't waste any UV. Both vivariums have got reflectors on it, so because they're tube bulbs, anything up at the top that was up against the wood was being wasted, so the reflector just bounces it back into the thing. Extra nighttime heating. You don't have to get the ceramic for nighttime heating. She doesn't have one, she never has. Thermostat and thermometer. I would get both, even if you've got a digital one that tells you the temperature, because they may not always be accurate. Calcium and vitamin supplements. If you get this, you won't need both. They do a low D3 version of this as well, which I'm going to get next time because I've just put that out. Gut loading insect food. General rule with gut loading is if your bearded dragon can eat it, the insects can eat it. Water dish. Food dish, you don't necessarily... I would go food dish if you're going for a vegetable dish. If you're going with an insect dish, a good way to stimulate your lizard is hunting. Just make sure that they've eaten everything before the lights off. What I do is I count the number of locusts that I put in there, count the number that she's eaten, and then I know if she's eaten them all or whether I need to go and find the last stragglers before they start nibbling on her. Reptile safe disinfectant. You don't have to buy this. If you've got a steam cleaner, that will work, or a 50-50 water and vinegar solution is also adequate for cleaning the vivarium. And a book on caring bearded dragons. The books are all well and good, but as we've discovered by this, the information could be a little bit outdated. So I would, yes, get the books, do internet research, and ask people that own Bearded Dragons. Plenty of reptile Facebooks, Instagram groups. You can find me on Instagram. I'm happy to answer any questions that you've got or anything like that. The books are a bit outdated and they need to be re-looked at and tried again. So we are going to leave that here. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel, pop a comment down below, and me and Thorn would like to thank you for watching, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye!